Yo, what's up, Panther fam? Tony Dunn here. C3 BeatCheck. Brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. The C3 Panthers podcast, longest running Panthers podcast each and every week. Tony Dunn, Cody Lashney put their ears down to the railroad tracks, to the ground, trying to check the beat. We got a good show tonight. So we hang out with Buck What You Heard. My boy Gene Thomas going to be here to help us preview the top storylines as the Panthers host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cody Lashney, my friend, my foe. How are you, my good sir?
Tony Dunn, we're back for another edition of the Beat Check, where we check the beat with Panthers reporters and podcasters from all different fan bases. We have a fantastic guest tonight, long-time fan of the show and a contributor to the show. Has his own podcast called Buck What You Heard. Let's bring him in. You know him, you love him. How are you, Gene? Good to have you back on another edition of the C3 podcast. What's up, brother?
Hey, it's always fun to be on here. I love hanging out with you guys, man. I love your content. Actually, I listen to you guys on Tuesdays. It's on my rotation.
Nice.
Man, we appreciate it. I tell you, Gene's got the best podcast name in the history of podcasts. Buck What You Heard. Good Lord, I tell you this is that, you wonder what you would name your podcast if you could go back after doing it for 10 years. And the C3 Panthers podcast was, we started with Carolina Cat Chronicles. I was worried about using the Carolina Panthers in the name. This was back, we're all going on the internet. And we're kind of like touching these big ass companies. And I was worried that I was worried about their, what their legal department would say. So we're trying to get something in the realm of it, this and that. But I tell you, if there's one podcast that could go back in time and redo their name, who would not redo it, it would be Buck What You Heard. I'm telling you, it's the best. It's the best. G-Man, my brother, host of and co-host of Southbound and Down when we used to run that. Might have to run that back at NFC South Focus podcast, roundtable style, a podcast ahead of its time. But the Carolina Panthers will be hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were shut out, right?
Yep.
Shut out? Was that the third shutout of
Tom Brady's career?
Brady's career. Can you believe that? That's insane. Tell us what happened to the Bucs.
They just didn't execute. There were injuries. I'm not going to use injuries as an excuse, but it's supposed to be next man up. You're in the NFL. You should be able to go out there and play. There's enough blame to go around for everything. I felt like coaching wasn't as creative as it could have been. There were a couple of turnovers, fumble and an interception, and it just collectively there was a lot of stuff going on. And I do want to throw this out here. Snoop Dogg was in the building, and I think he jinxed us. And I'm gonna die on that hill right there. So leave it at that.
I agree. I don't know why, but I agree. But also to go off that, listen, man, there is definitely something to be said. No matter how good your football team is, it is always tried and true that division rivals play you tough, man. Yeah. And ever since Tom Brady has been a part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints, man, even with all their roster turnaround, for whatever reason, they seem to have Tampa Bay's number. Why do you think that is? Was it just because of the injuries and all the talent you guys were missing, or are they actually doing something specific to kind of slow down the offense?
I think it's been since Sean Payton has been in Tampa or been in New Orleans. It's been a problem, and the Bucs have just not been able to consistently beat the New Orleans Saints, and it is what it is. I mean, if you go back to the NFC North division when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played the Chicago Bears, it was a very similar situation where it's just one of those things. The Bucs could not beat Chicago, regardless of how trash their team was. It just is how it worked out. And you got to factor in here that Sean Payton was out with COVID, and you don't even have a legit starting wide receiver or there's a lot that the Bucs could have capitalized on, but they just didn't do it. And again, like I said, it comes back to coaching, execution, and just being able to make those plays that they didn't really do. So
yeah,
there's a lot of things that they need to look at.
You're listening to the C3 Beat Check. This week, our guest helping us preview the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Carolina Panthers is Gene Thomas, longtime friend of the show, my brother. Buck What You Heard podcast. Man, Leonard Fournette out for the rest of the season, and now we're talking about the signing of Le'Veon Bell. Of course, could there have been a different name that the Bucs have signed? Maybe. Well, I guess Adrian Peterson was taken. Who else can you go find? Man, why don't y'all bring some old? You should have gotten Ty Gurley. And I love Ty Gurley, so no Ty Gurley slander on this podcast.
Yeah, I know that's been since day one, since he entered the NFL. No, yeah. I guess it makes sense. With Le'Veon Bell, I think him being able to pass block and him being able to catch passes is a couple of contributing factors for them grabbing him. I know his best years are behind him, and I'm just wondering, what else this could have, who else could have been out there. I just can't think of anybody, really, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are really missing a lot of players, but you're going to have Antonio Brown coming back. What do you think? Let's start to get into this matchup a little bit. I was talking to you a little bit before the show, and I was telling you I wish this was a more competitive matchup, or that we could predict it to be a more competitive matchup. What kind of team do you think you have coming off of that loss? Do you think there is a chip on your shoulder, on the Buccaneers' shoulder, going into this Panthers game? I mean, especially since they're still fighting to maintain and get to that number 1 seed.
Well, you have to consider you've lost Mike Evans until the first round of the playoffs. You lost Chris Godwin for the season. You've lost Leonard Fournette and Levante David. So you've lost quite a few key players on both sides of the ball that really contribute to this team. Again, it comes back to coaching, and how will these coaches put together what they need to make things work out. That's going to be the key right there. If you give me 1 second, I need to let somebody in real quick.
It's okay. It's okay. Go on here. Let's continue on as he's going and letting his guest in. He's got to let somebody into his house. Don't ever let somebody in your house while you're podcasting, folks.
Yeah, it's like a bad omen. Scary. Who knows?
I think we gotta, obviously we're trying to preview this matchup, but let's go ahead and jump over to the Carolina Panthers beat, right? While he's gone.
Yeah, well,
there's one story. There's only one story to talk about. And you told me, I thought you were bullshitting me. Tell me, what is the only story that we should be talking about tonight when it comes to Carolina Panthers?
The only story that we should truly be talking about tonight is that our man, the best defensive player on the Carolina Panthers, Hassan Reddick, got snubbed for the Pro Bowl. He is not going to the Pro Bowl, and not only is he not going, but his teammate on the other side of the defensive line is going to the Pro Bowl. Brian Burns has been named a Pro Bowl defensive end. Hassan Reddick got snubbed, and Tony, in one of the Debate My Takes segments that we did, I said Hassan Reddick was the only Panther deserving to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not trying to take
the Pro Bowl.
Oh yeah, to the Pro Bowl.
No Panther is deserving to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not trying to take anything away from Brian Burns, but man, how many times have we talked about him missing, a bunch of different sacks, not wrapping up, not being able to contain. It really is kind of baffling that this has happened, and that it happened the way it did. I think Hassan Reddick got snubbed. Ultimately, I am happy for Brian Burns, but I don't know, Tony. This is a tough one to swallow. Surprising headline for me. Number one is that I think the expectations for Brian Burns were so inflated this year that the 9-sack season, which is somewhat is particularly productive. There's a 17 game season. We're getting an extra game this year. So, I mean, what is he? He got 9 sacks through 15 games, roughly, or something like that, or 14 games. It's been pretty good. He's made some plays. He has not, for someone who has looked very, very closely at him, like we have, right, watching him under a microscope or a magnifying glass. There are a lot of plays that were left out on the field. But at the end of the day, I don't think him getting into the Pro Bowl is that problematic for me. The real problem, though, is that Hassan Reddick is an alternate when Hassan Reddick's been not only the best player on the Carolina Panthers defense, but arguably the best Panther player for the whole season. A man who's came in on a friendly deal. And, I almost thought it was slightly, I kind of looked down a little, when Hassan Reddick was pumping up his own Pro Bowl tweet so much. I hadn't seen a player root for himself so publicly before. And he wasn't doing it in a mean or greedy way. It was just like he was happy and very excited to go to this Pro Bowl. And then, and he really wanted it. And I don't know if
Twitter campaigning.
Yeah, I mean, he was campaigning, but it wasn't it was like an honest campaign. So I just hadn't seen a player campaign like that so heavily in my history with the Carolina Panthers. Maybe he deserves, how he got snubbed, I don't know. And obviously it wasn't through fan voting because he was leading the fan votes, unless big market teams just all of a sudden got up there on the last second on that double vote day. Right. But that is the problem. Hassan Reddick not being a starter, Brian Burns being a starter. And I really kind of feel like it's almost a little shade on Brian Burns, to be honest. Like when he walks into that meeting room and the defensive players are all around and he's like, I'm going to the Pro Bowl. Everybody's like, Reddick should have been the one. Reddick should have been the one. So that's the big storyline. We'll circle back to the Matt Rule recant.
Yeah, I'm shocked that Karen Jordan's in there.
Well, we're gonna circle back to the Matt Rule recant storyline. Cody, take us back to the Bucks. Gene from Buck What You Heard here, helping us check out the Panthers beat.
Yeah, so the question I want to ask you is, how is your edge looking? The edges of your defensive line, because we have Brady Christensen, a guy that we drafted in the 3rd round of the draft this year, and we've been begging him to play left tackle, but Matt Rule refuses to do it. One of the things that we've had to find out the hard way, Gene, is that Matt Rule does still have that Ron Rivera syndrome, and in that he doesn't want to play his young players, even in spite of his offensive line being so terrible. But it's looking like Brady Christensen is going to get the start at left tackle this week because of injuries to Cam Irving. What do you think? Does that bode well for a rookie? What does your edge pressure look like? And do you overall think that your defense is poised to kind of pin their ears back and attack?
Yeah, I really do. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, one of your rookie edge rushers, Shaq Barrett, and of course JPP, all guys that can wreak havoc on an offensive line. I think with what happened last week, I think that this team is like, they're really, they're looking to redeem themselves this week. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the two match up against each other. I do trust the defense, especially the defensive line. When you're looking at Vita Vea and Will Golston and some of your other defensive linemen, as well as your edge rushers, I think that it could be present problems for that Carolina offensive line.
Yeah. Go ahead,
What
Tony.
are your thoughts on Antonio Brown coming back and Bruce Arians unapologetically saying, I just want to do what's best for the Bucs, which I kind of like, to be
Well,
honest, because
he-
that's what everybody does anyway. So you might as well just say it.
Well, this is kind of, and again, he served his time, and I'm going to start there. He was suspended. He served his time. He is actually vaccinated, by the way, just FYI.
Of course, everybody who goes anti-vax and then makes a stand and gets caught for it and whatever it is, they all end up getting vaxxed.
Yeah,
Cam
but I
did.
think
I think Cole Beasley is the only one who is
before all this came out, where his cook snitched on him or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, he's a snitch.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to read about this settlement he reached.
So my guy, you know, and now he's like, oh, we're fine now. He paid me back. We're good now. And you know, I'm just like, well, let me kind of take a step back. In the media in Tampa, the media in Tampa is just like, you know, they don't care. They just, hey, if it's a story, they're trying to outscoop each other. So the guy that broke the story, I ain't gonna drop his name, but you know, he's going off of this unreliable source of an angry cook that, you know, put the story out. I guess there was truth to it.
Or the most reliable source, dude. And man, he was, you know, not unreliable.
Come on now.
Antonio Brown doing a personal chef wrong on the bill, that does not sound absurd at all. That sounds like
you owe me
$20.
I'm gonna throw a little bit of shade your way. If it's been
10
a while,
grand. He said he owed him 10 grand.
I'm just saying, even a small scale like $20, you owe me some money, and you're not even intent on paying me. I'm gonna throw a little bit of shade your way. I might.
I'll be talking about your eBay account and how you bought a fake vaccine card myself.
You know, and you know, when I get to my contacts, you know, I'm gonna have how much you owe me right next to your name on the contact.
I know, like your Twitter handle won't be re-signed, Chris Godwin. It'll be like Antonio Brown owes me $5K. Exactly. That'd be my Twitter.
Tony Dunn owes me $20.
Yes. Exactly. All right. So Antonio Brown, does he? I mean, but is necessary, right? I mean, you need him right now. And how bad do you got to feel for Chris Godwin?
Yeah.
This is why you don't want to play on the fucking franchise tag, right?
Yeah.
Isn't he on the franchise?
Yep. And it's a contract. This is a contract year. You know what? No, Shaq Barrett is. He was on a
Did he take a team friendly deal? I thought Shaq took the team friendly deal this year. I don't know. Team
friendly, and it was Godwin. You're right. So yeah.
And Tom Brady likes Godwin too, I think.
But you got to consider this guy just blocks. He can block downfield. He's got nice hands. You know, he's your slot guy. And you know, he just does a lot of the intangibles that you want a wide receiver to do, you know. And he's pretty reliable. I mean, when they're throwing the bubble screens and they're getting that speed and space, you know, on those short passes, I mean, he was the main guy that they were going to. That, you know, I guess you look at the scheme for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's one of the main people that they manufactures plays for, if that makes sense. Whether you're running an end around or you're, you know, the bubble screen to get open, and you know, that's just plays like that. They were, you know, specifically for Chris Godwin.
My next question goes to it's kind of a arching question. Last year, the Buccaneers, you bring in, you know, you got Tom Brady there, some kind of a slow start. Yeah. But there was a loss, and it might have been the Saints game. I'm not entirely sure if it was the Saints game, but it felt like it was around like between week 8 and 10. There was a loss the Bucs encountered, and then they just reeled off and went from a wild card team to like being a dominant team. It felt like
it was the Rams game. It was probably the Rams game, and then week 12, that Kansas City game was a game that kind of was a difference maker. Then they went into the bye week.
So you galvanized. Yeah, you kind of caught this momentum point and got galvanized into a tough, hard team.
Right.
There's a couple of times this season I thought that was happening again. It was a month ago. It was 2 weeks ago. Now you suffer this blanking by the Saints, who Tom Brady can't beat the Saints. How about that? They're like the opposite of the Dolphins for him.
Yeah, exactly.
They're the opposite of the Jets. He can't beat the Saints under any circumstances, it feels like.
Except for the playoffs.
Except for the playoffs. Exactly. Good point. As a team is trying to catch that momentum, a real heavyweight champion, maybe in their twilight years to a certain degree. Do you see this Buccaneers team as being as strong as forecasted? Where do you see them going, and how do they respond to kind of what would arguably be a disappointing season, given the fact they still have 10 wins, though?
Well, I guess the key right now is getting everybody back healthy. When you consider the secondary has been injured all year, you haven't had any of your starters collectively playing together since week 1, and you're always shuffling players in and out. That's been part of the problem. But again, I'm not using that as an excuse. It's next man up. These guys should be able to go out and execute and play like they're supposed to. But what I'm seeing is a lot of these players will be 100% healthy when we get around to the playoffs. So I think right now what the Buccaneers are really working on doing is winning some of these games. The last 3 games they have, I think it's the Panthers, the Jets, and then the Panthers again. The Panthers at home. So it's one of those things you got to take it one game at a time and execute and do what you need to do to win these games.
So, Jane, when you were going to answer your door, Tony and I were talking about some Pro Bowl stuff for the Panthers, and I wanted to kind of turn that question around towards Tampa. The Buccaneers Pro Bowlers are Tom Brady, Tristan Wirfs, Ryan Jensen, Ali Marpet, and Shaq Barrett. Is there anyone who should be on that list who isn't? And of those names, are you particularly happy that one of those guys is going to the Pro Bowl?
I don't know. I've been kind of jaded with the whole Pro Bowl selection. And
Same.
I mean, I was listening to you guys talking about it, and it's a popularity contest. I think somebody in the chat said it. It's a popularity contest. It doesn't matter. It doesn't measure skill. There are players like Levante David, who Levante David should have been to more than one Pro Bowl, but it's just a travesty that it just hasn't happened the way it has. And Tristan Wirfs is definitely deserving of that. Shaq Barrett. I mean, you
could have drafted him. We could have drafted Tristan over. I'm sorry.
And he is probably going to be one of the best offensive linemen we've ever had. I mean, just playing like he's playing right now at the level that he's playing since his rookie season. I thought maybe he'd fall off this year, but he's been pretty solid. So I'm happy with the players that they have in there. But you go back to it again, like I said, it's a popularity contest. I don't even watch the Pro Bowl anymore.
You're listening to the C3 Beat Check. We're here with Gene Thomas previewing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Carolina Panthers game. You can find his work at the Buck What You Heard podcast. Tell him your Twitter handle. I don't need to say at unless I'm saying it's at Super Heavyweight, right?
It's at Buck What You Heard.
You changed? Didn't you used to have Super Heavyweight?
Yeah, it was a Super Heavyweight.
All right, okay.
But I've actually got
What You Heard. I
now.
Told you. Good podcast name. All right, where is the vulnerability for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team? Because I could list you like 100 vulnerabilities for the Carolina Panthers team. What are the vulnerabilities for a team like the Panthers, who have every person on their squad and every person on their coaching staff hoping that they have a paycheck next week, next year? How do they attack your team?
Stopping the run. If it's me, I'm stopping the run. And basically, if you can shut down your wide receiver, your number one wide receiver, you definitely have a chance to let your defensive line pin their ears and get after the quarterback. And we do know that Tom Brady's not mobile, but again, you got to get past that offensive line. Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet, Ryan Jensen, Tristan Wirfs. Alex Kappa and those guys. They've done a great job keeping Brady upright, but he can be gotten to, as we've seen last week with the New Orleans Saints.
How was New Orleans able to do it? And then after you answer that, tell us a rundown of the injuries that were sustained in that game and the facing this team right now, because it is abundant.
Yes, it is. Just the play calling was really good. I mean, they came after Tom Brady and they were able to keep pressure on him and keep keep a hand in his face, and it just made it difficult for him to get those throws off. And another thing, when you lose a Leonard Fournette and you're using Ronald Jones seemed to be doing well. I think he ended up with like 65 yards. They went away from him and went to another running back. So again, that comes back to coaching and play calling. And there were some plays that Tom Brady could have made. We had some drops from the wide receivers. So I can't put everything, like I said, there's enough blame to go around. I'll just put it that way. There's enough blame to go around. But it is something that is coachable. It is something they can overcome. And wherever Tom is putting the ball, just make sure you're catching it. You still have players like Gronk. You still have players like Ronald Jones out there. You will see a Scotty Miller and of course AB. So there are players out there, Cameron Brate, that will be able to help this offense.
What is the injury situation like?
So you're looking at Chris Godwin is done.
Didn't it happen a lot in one quarter in the Saints game or something?
That it was just like with Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a hamstring injury, so that's soft tissue. Levante David, foot injury. I believe that's soft tissue as well. It's not bone. The hit on Chris Godwin, torn ACL. He's done for the year. And then who am I missing? Mike Evans. Did I mention Mike Evans and his hamstring?
Leonard Fournette.
And I believe he has a foot injury as well. And all these guys you will definitely see, with the exception of Chris Godwin, when we get around to the playoffs. So
how crazy is it that all of those injuries have happened to this team and Gronk is not one of them?
His was earlier on in the season. So
he's already been through it.
Yeah, he's already been through it. And oddly, I figured Mike Evans would have gotten a hamstring injury or something like that earlier on in the year, but he's been pretty durable up until this point.
Gene, what's this I'm hearing about Le'Veon Bell? Is that something that could actually happen? I know
it's already had. He practiced today, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So what do you make of that? Is that just because Leonard is hurt? Do you think he's going to be able to actually contribute to this football team?
I hope so. I look back on Shady McCoy when Shady McCoy
that's the name I was thinking of.
Was here. He contributed for the Minnesota Vikings game. And yeah, that was about it.
It wasn't all season long, but there were some moments that he was used, and they said, "We need you." And his name was called, his number was called, and he answered in those games.
Yeah,
you got to wonder if Le'Veon, man, this guy was about to go and fight in the MMA. He said,
"Yeah, well, it still could happen." I mean, you're looking at Giovanni Bernard being healthy for the playoffs, and that's a name we haven't heard because of the injury that he suffered. But I think that he's a good third down back. He still has nice legs, and they didn't really utilize him as much as I thought they would when they brought him in. But I think this is just to kind of get him through this 3 games.
You need bodies at this point. Yeah, Le'Veon Bell and experience, and you know what? If there's anybody that can make something out of it, it's Tom Brady. Yeah. Is it Ronald Jones? Is that his name?
Rojo, yeah.
What the hell? Why are they so? I mean, boy, he fumbled the ball once earlier in the season. They gave up on him. Is there something behind the scenes? Is he going to get an opportunity to work his way back right now since Leonard Fournette is out?
He will be your starter. But after this season, I don't see him coming back to Tampa. This is just not a good fit for him. He's a pure runner. He's a running back. He's not catch the ball or any of the other things that I know that the game has progressed to where running backs are expected to do certain things. Teams like the Ravens or even like Carolina, the Carolina Panthers would be a nice landing spot for him where he could just run. He's a violent runner, and he moves the sticks. And I think right now where he's at, he's lost confidence because he's not being utilized. I mean, everything's been handed over to Leonard Fournette, and now he's going to get a chance to show what he can do. And to me, this will be his opportunity to set himself up to land somewhere else.
You're listening to the C3 Beat Check. We're here tonight with Gene Thomas from Buck What You Heard podcast, previewing the Carolina Panthers match game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're hosting it in Bank of America, but to me, the storylines involve two other teams, one that came into the league or into the NFL with us, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the other is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich, the ties to Jacksonville are there. Byron Leftwich has been the offensive coordinator on this staff, and the name and the buzz are around him. Should he be a head coach? Should the Carolina Panthers, if they are looking for a head coach next year, be interested in Byron Leftwich?
It'll be Eric Bieniemy for me. I mean, I'm probably in the minority here. I'm not a huge fan of Byron Leftwich. I don't think he's very creative.
Okay.
He doesn't make adjustments.
Let's hear it. I want to hear it because I think right now it's just a name that look, and I like Byron Leftwich. So tell us what you think about him.
He's been fortunate enough to be in this marriage with Bruce Arians, Tom Brady, and Byron Leftwich, and they all work well together collectively. I wasn't a huge fan of his, when he was in Arizona, and hopefully, again, I know people will complain about me saying this, but I just wasn't. I don't think he's very creative, and there are times where he doesn't make adjustments in the second half, and I think only your good coaches do that. And I'm going to give the devil his due. Sean Payton is really good at that. Bill Belichick is another coach that's really good at it. Sean McVay, another coach that's really good at making adjustments and playing to the strengths of what's best for their players. But when things are working, Byron Leftwich calls some really great games. The game against the Saints was very unimaginative. There was nothing to throw off the New Orleans Saints, and it was just basically this is what we're going to do, and there was just a matching of wills. So again, yeah, I understand where people are going with this, but you have to consider that it was a marriage with Bruce Arians, Byron Leftwich, and Tom Brady. It wasn't all Byron Leftwich making the calls. And again, I think he needs a little bit longer if you're going to consider him as a coach.
Someone in the chat asked this: who calls the offensive plays for the Bucks, Byron or Brady?
I've seen both. I've seen times where Tom Brady will shake off a call. He'll look over at the sidelines and shake his head and go with something else or audible out of something. So I like I said, it's a marriage between the three, and I think that's the only way that they could have been successful, just based on that.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. Going into this matchup, what are you thinking about Tom Brady? After coming off of that shutout, you can tell those kind of performances, especially if anyone's been watching Man in the Arena, like he takes those personal. Right. So, I mean, what do you think Tom needs to do to rebound from a performance like that? And I mean, and you can be honest with us. Do you look at this matchup with the Panthers as a favorable opportunity for him to do so?
The Carolina Panthers are coming in facing the defending Super Bowl champions, and they're going to bring their A game. They're going to bring everything, and they're going to play this team, and they're a division rival as well. They're going to play the Buccaneers different than they played some of your other games. It's going to be a close game because, to me, and in my opinion, is a division game, and those are my expectations. I think that everybody, when you're the Super Bowl champs, that's the way everybody you've got that target on your back, and everybody's coming for you. So that's kind of how I look at this. And kind of getting back to Tom Brady, he's got to get some help from his wide receivers. Wide receivers have to get in, they have to catch the ball. If the ball hits your hand, you've got to catch it. And we saw some drops by Gronk, saw some drops by Scotty Miller. These are plays that they're going to have to make. You don't have Chris Godwin. These guys have to step up. The guys, if you're on the field, you've got to step up. You've got to make the play. Tom Brady can't go out there and catch the ball himself. I mean, there have been some throws that, are questionable, but on the other end of that, there have been some throws that were right there. All you got to do is catch it. You got a first down and you're extending the play. And special teams, when it's your number, when your name is called on, Ryan Suckup, one of my favorite kickers, he missed a 3-point, 3 points right there. And then you're operating differently, just situational football because you got 3 points on the board. So to me, everybody's got to contribute. When it's your time, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Are you thinking that this is a squad that can repeat for the Super Bowl? I mean, looking at the landscape of the NFC right now, how do you feel about your team's chances to make it to Los Angeles this year? Who do you see the biggest threat to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being going forward this year?
As much as I hate this team, it's probably Dallas. But honestly, I think if you've got everybody healthy and they're all playing as a unit, I could see Tampa going into Lambeau and winning again. There are a lot of things I just looking at this team, if everybody's healthy, even though you're missing Chris Godwin, which is an integral part of your offense, I believe they have enough weapons with Gronk, with Leonard Fournette coming back healthy, with Ronald Jones, with Scotty Miller, with Tyler Johnson, AB, and Mike Evans. I mean, you still got a lot of weapons on that offense. And I think with your secondary coming back healthy as well, I think everything kind of comes together at the right time. And I think they could definitely make another run at it.
When expectations for a team like the Buccaneers, who brought back every single player from their Super Bowl team, it's an almost unheard of type of event. When those expectations loom, it's tough. It's tough to live up to them, no matter who you are. Even with Tom Brady at the helm, if you could name one thing that was the most pleasantly surprising thing about that, right? I mean, and which I know this is going to be such a hard question given what expectations for this team. It really seems like it's hard to meet them. What's one thing that you've liked or been surprised, a good thing about this team so far about this season?
Well, historically, the Bucs have played a type of football where if they're down, they're losing that game. And there have been games this season that the Bucs historically would have lost that they've gone out and won. And the mindset's a little bit different. Your front office is different than, over the past decade and a half. And, they're actually in every game. And we just haven't seen that. I remember games where I dreaded seeing the Bucs facing the Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton, because I knew Cam Newton was going to run all over the defense. And sure enough, he did. And there were those types of games. But now with Tom Brady on the field, and I'm like, oh, the Bucs can win this game.
There's always a chance.
There's
like
always
you'd be down 20 with 6 minutes left, and you go, man, can we get 3 possessions up in this bitch real quick? What's the worst let's flip that coin. What's the most kind of disappointing part of this season?
Probably the penalties and missed opportunities. There's a lot of points that were left on the field that could have led to wins. And execution, I mean, sometimes the Bucs play like it's a preseason game at times where they should be making plays, making catches, and it's just not happening. So I think now you're starting to see him kind of bring it all together. But just throughout the year, there were a couple of games that the Washington football team, they should have beat them. They should have beat them by at least 2 or 3 touchdowns. But it didn't happen. And again, that's the Bucks beating the Bucks, and there's something we're kind of used to. It's like PTSD, where you're just used to seeing that over and over again. So, those are the kind of things that kind of disappointed me. I figured that maybe after 4 or 5 games, the Bucks would bring it all together and stop making these backbreaking penalties or backbreaking mistakes that lead to other issues. So, just where they are right now, I'm hoping that they're figuring this out, and this is going to tell you a lot about the team and the coaching staff these next 3 games. Well, some people on the outside may say, "Oh, these are all easy games to win," but no game is really easy if you're the defending Super Bowl champs, and I will say that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you have any questions for us about this matchup coming
Yeah,
up?
absolutely. I'm real curious about the
That's my
running
interview
ball.
question, Cody.
I took it. What's up?
So with the running game, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to start with you, Cody. How confident are you with the Carolina Panthers running game? And Christian McCaffrey, is he out for the season?
Yeah, he's out for the season on IR. Second season in a row that he's missed most of the football games this year. Surprisingly enough, I think we're going to be okay. I mean, I really like what we've seen from Chuba Hubbard and Amir Abdullah. They're a good 1-2 punch. Chuba Hubbard has come on strong. He's a violent runner. Once he gets going downhill, he really is a strong football player. And then Amir Abdullah, not only is he a good runner with good vision, but he really, makes up for that passing running back that we've been missing so much with Christian McCaffrey. One of the big caveats to that, though, Gene, and, we're not just being, fans that are overreacting here. The Carolina Panthers legitimately have one of the worst offensive lines in football. I mean, if you've been following, and I know Tony can vouch
It's
for
like
this.
Tampa Bay Buccaneer worthy, in your those years that you were
Old school Tampa.
where you thought I was even being a little crazy talking about our offensive line and how bad it sucked, and you were like, you should check out ours. It's that bad, bro. It's that bad.
So what about the wide receivers? I've seen DJ Moore, and he's been the stone-handed devil this year, and is he turning that around?
Tony, I'll let you go on DJ Moore. Why don't you let him?
You know what? I feel like DJ Moore has just gotten beat up under his entire career of playing with backup quarterbacks, and that lead him into the middle of the field to get wrecked. And I feel like he just he wants to go home at this point. It's just like, why do I gotta go put my body out on the line that much? No, the Panthers receivers are fine. And when I say fine, that's all they are. They're not great. They're not bad. Robbie Anderson has actually been the most disappointing. A lot of drops early in the season. Look, as DJ goes out there and fights each week, he's he gets it done. For me, when it comes into this game right here, just going back to the run game, I will say this: is Chuba Hubbard, man, has got the fumbles, bro. Every time he goes to the ground, I wonder if the ball comes loose. Swear to God, I think it's I'm just I might be thinking it into existence. He can't catch the ball. That's fine. Like you said, the butcher is straight. But here's the deal: is that you want to know anything when it comes to all of this, like the answers to the questions about the run game, the questions about our receivers, all circle back to one man, one number 1, Cam Newton. Sadly, still this, and not sadly, I love this, but still, it's like Jesus. It's the more things change, the more they stay the same. If our running game is going to be effective, it's because Cam Newton is effective with his legs. If our passing game is effective, it's going to be because Cam Newton fucking survives this shit show of an offensive line, this shit show of a coaching staff, and overcomes his own inadequacies at this point in his career. He's got his own things to overcome internally, I guess you would say. It all comes back, and it's he is our soul. He's our sun that we orbit around, and that is Cam Newton. The run game is going to be predominantly dependent on him. And my last point about the receivers is this. Jesus Christ, we're going to be playing Sam Darnold in this game. They've already said they want to see him out there, so they are going to suck. They're going to suck. Everyone's going to suck. We're in a bad place. We're in a bad place, homie.
Yeah, we're very
I have to ask this too.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the Bucs so much. The trenches. Do you feel like the general manager has adequately addressed the trenches over the past 5 or 6 years? Because that's where
I'll give you 10, Gene. We have not. You want to know why we have a shit offensive line? I'll tell you why. Because we haven't invested in it. We haven't invested in it in the draft. We haven't invested in it in free agency. We have invested too little, too late. That's it. I mean, right? I mean, like, look, even the best names that you could say, Taylor Moton, right? The guy that we just extended still was a trade up, our second choice in that draft. We got outbid on somebody. We had to settle for him. On top of that, he was a second round pick. We have not had a first round pick for the Carolina Panthers on the offensive line since 2008, bro.
Yeah, and
I would be pissed about that because that's
just do it every 3 years. You should pick an offensive lineman in the first round.
And James, you know what's even more infuriating about it? So I was telling you earlier, we drafted a guy in the 3rd round named Brady Christensen, PFF's highest rated left tackle out of BYU. Matt Rule refuses to give him meaningful snaps this year. Then we luck up and get a steal later in the draft in Deontay Brown, the guard from Alabama. And barely, I believe he's only played 1 true snap this season. So we're over here like looking at these 2 young guys, wishing that they would have gotten more playing time, still wishing that they will get more playing time. And now we're
next year.
And now we're thinking we don't even know what we have in these guys. Now we're having to push our evaluation of them off into next year, thus impeding, the decision-making process on what we're going to do on the offensive line this year. Are we going to draft an offensive tackle? We only have 1 pick in the top 100 picks, so we don't even have a bunch of picks. Free agency, normally top-flight offensive linemen don't hit the free agency market because teams pay them. You pay your good offensive linemen. So we're just kind of spinning our wheels here, Gene, at the offensive line position. And that's why, if you've been on Twitter, there's such a fervor behind the firing of Matt Rule, because Panther fans feel like he has just so badly mismanaged this football team this season. And
it's a bad idea to bring him in to begin with. I mean, you have...
It's just a disaster. It turned out to be a disaster.
His body of work, because I was all for Matt Rule coming in. I felt like if all the players bought into what he was doing, I felt like, okay, you guys, that's normally how a good team gets started, because everybody buys into what's going on. But just some of the missed calls, the clock management, some of the play calling that I've seen personally.
It's not even that, Gene. It's the inexperience on the other side for him. Like, it's like the player personnel part. It's not even, I mean, like the football side, yeah, man, we could nitpick every single damn thing in a football game, right? But at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to big plays, 3 or 4 plays. Like, I mean, so like, I don't even want to throw anybody under the bus when it comes to like, oh, we could have done this, we could have done that, even though Matt Rule will do that. He will throw somebody under the bus for 1 play. But what I'm just saying is that just inexperience, man. That's what it really comes down to. And it's not just football inexperience. It's like the NFL is its own thing. It's and that's
he found out the hard way about that one.
And I think it's the people he surrounded himself were not.
That's where I was going to too.
That's really it is. It's not about just having. So here's the thing, Gene, and I've said this a billion times on our podcast, and that is, it's not just bringing in a college coach that's daunting, right? It's like, I mean, look, there have been a few college coaches that have worked. Pete Carroll, Cliff Kingsbury, maybe now. There's a couple other John Harbaugh. You know, I mean, there's a couple of names. Here's the thing, though, is that we try to do too much new at once. We had a new coach who had never been in the NFL. He brings in a offensive coordinator who had never been an offensive coordinator, right? Who brought in a quarterback who was Teddy Bridgewater. It's like new. And then it turns out nobody knew what to fucking do. And it's kind of like when somebody important at a job leaves or whatever, you know, you can replace leadership people and this and that, but it's harder to replace the fucking person that knows how to run the basic programs that get you through the day, like the administrative assistant.
You just described the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2010, when Raheem Morris was the head coach and no experience. And then you look at the team themselves, there were no veterans on that team. It was just a rudderless ship. And so I totally understand what you're saying. Is there a way to fix this to where you keep him, or do you feel like they just move on from him after the season's over?
Cody?
I mean, listen, I didn't think before the start of this season that we would be talking about coaching fires. I didn't think that, you know, I thought for sure Matt Rule was going to get a third year. You know, if you look at what he did at Temple and Baylor, the third year, that's when he's able to turn things around. But man, just seeing how bad how bad they are at evaluating this coaching staff, whether it be not wanting to bet big on a quarterback in the draft, then wanting to go get Sam Darnold, who has been an absolute nightmare, and all the $18 million is going to be worth next season. But then, you know, Gene, last year, there was a bunch of Panther games that were close, that we lost. And we thought, oh, okay, we're moving in the right direction. If we get a little bit better, man, that puts us over the edge. Maybe this is a playoff football team. That's what we all thought at the start of the season. But for us to have lost every game against the NFC East, aka the NFC East, then for us to lose to Miami, and you know, it's been so disappointing.
Yeah,
I think Matt Rule has revealed himself to me. And even though I do think he'll get another year, I do think that David Tepper is not going to be able to swallow that pill and admit that he's the one that made the wrong decision in hiring Matt Rule. But I do think that it's something that needs to happen. And frankly, I hope it does. I want us to move forward with this coaching position.
Now, is this something where you blow the whole thing up? I mean, GM and everything, and
just well, we don't know that. Our GM is new. It would say we built backwards. We brought in a coach, then a GM. So we're gonna fire the coach and then the GM. No, I think that the GM has his tenure's too short to fire him. So I think he would be part of hiring a new coach. I am of the opinion that Matt Rule cannot come back next year, and what I want people to do is that when they tell me that I'm wrong on this, is that you tell me why he should come back. We mortgage the future, right? Like we've squandered our future. Like we've struck out in so many ways. The team is lost. So no, I don't think he should be the coach in the future. And Gene, we're kind of running low on time here.
No worries.
So here we're gonna do is we're going to cover the last two topics of the beat check, which are going to be internal Panthers discussions, but you can hang out and talk with us about the two top storylines that are floating around for the Carolina Panthers. That's right. Every Wednesday night we check the beat, where we check the top stories with a beat writer, a podcaster from the opposing team. This week it is Gene Thomas from Buck What You Heard, as we host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but we also look at the top storylines for the Carolina Panthers. And we've talked about the Pro Bowl snub, one. Number two, and probably and arguably is the number one story, and that is news that Sam Darnold is back at practice, full pads, throwing, and now the Carolina Panthers want to, or have said, that they are going to start Cam Newton, but expect Sam Darnold to see some time in this game, as well as Matt Rule on record saying He wants to give Sam Darnold a chance to show that he can be an NFL quarterback. Cody Lashney, the two quarterback system lives in Carolina. Matt Rule lives and dies by Sam Darnold. Is he a fool?
Yeah, he's a fool. I mean, what other NFL team have you ever known to be truly successful running a two quarterback system? I mean, this part it goes into what I was saying. Matt Rule puts all of his players in positions to fail. I mean, Cam Newton had to come in the middle of the season. He's still trying to get on rhythm with his receivers. You fired the offensive coordinator. We all know that Joe Brady was the fall guy at this point. Like, I mean, my thing when it comes to this quarterbacking decision is that you're doing none of these guys any service. Like, why do you need to see Sam Darnold? What more do you need to see from him now that you didn't already see earlier this year? I'll tell you exactly what it is. Matt Rule bet big time on Sam Darnold. That was his restoration project. They thought they were going to trade for some used goods from the New York Jets. They were going to be able to turn them around, and it would be the success story of the NFL. Look how good our coaches are. Well, it didn't turn out that way. And now that it didn't turn out that way, Matt Rule is trying to force this to happen. And, Gene, the Panther fans, we know Cam Newton isn't our future, but most Panther fans certainly want to see Cam Newton over Sam Darnold. Either of them are going to be set up for failure behind this offensive line, but especially if Cam Newton came back just to be benched in favor of Sam Darnold, Panther fans are not going to be happy about it, and we're already not.
So real quick, when you're talking about this, are you kind of stuck with Sam Darnold next year too?
Yeah, I mean, unless we're able to trade him, which God bless us, I don't know what NFL team is trading for Sam Darnold at this point in time, but he's going to be $18 million against our cap next year because we decided that it would be prudent to pick up his fifth-year option. That way, in case Sam Darnold balled out this year and was so good for us, we would have another year to be able to, kick the can down the road on paying him franchise quarterback money. Yikes, what a mistake that has been.
Bumbling mess this was turned out. You should have just seen if he worked. Again, this is the same problem. You can't learn from your mistakes, folks. You signed Teddy Bridgewater to a 3-year deal when he had only played 5 games with the Saints. You let him play once. Look, one and done, homie. Pay him a respectable amount. One and done. And if they're good enough, then sign them. Have some guts then. Not this. Man, is the kicking the can down the road. I tell you this is the one other thing to mention is that if Cam Newton is not part of Carolina's future next year, this would be his final game in Bank of America. And imagine being – this is why I think each and every week where I ask someone to tell me why Matt Rule should be the coach next year is that he's going to stake his hill. He's going to die on the hill of Cam Newton's last home game, and he's going to say, well, I got to see some more Sam Darnold. But we can't see Brady Christensen. We can't see. They ain't ready. We can't see these. All right, man. I'm telling you, Matt Rule is a fool, and it's hard. I hate to be like that about somebody because I just want you to give me something to love, something to like, and
something to look forward to.
Each and every week, one other thing happens. One more thing happens where he stumbles, fumbles. Like it's like you telling your kid, you're like, I'm gonna let you go do this because I trust you. I'm gonna give you another opportunity. Screw the last one. I'm gonna give you. I believe in you. I believe in you. I want to believe in you. I want to. And guess what they do? They screw it up. Well, guess what also happened? The Carolina Panthers screw up a 4th and 1 play this past week. Or I mean, we didn't have a kicker. We were against on the road in Buffalo. It's a tough matchup as it well. We didn't have a field goal kicker. We were going to have to be going for it on 4th down a lot. On 4th and 1, trying to make the most of it. The Carolina Panthers throw a bubble screen to a wide receiver. It's all blown up from the beginning. It's awful on all realms. 1, 2, 3. I guess the only thing that was good about it is it wasn't picked for a touchdown, pick six. Is that it was just a throw that it just looked awful. After the game, Matt Rule comes out and says that Cam Newton made the wrong play. He had the wrong read, that he should have either handed it off or ran himself. The next day, he comes out to the media and says, after looking at the film, he can see why Cam did it, but still the better option would have been to run this and that. Today, the new storyline comes out, Cody Lashney, that he has gone and talked to Cam Newton and is now taking ownership of it, of getting it wrong.
Did that to begin with.
Yeah.
Getting the play wrong, getting the analysis wrong, and getting Cam Newton wrong. He has now said he's apologized. This is the last and most important storyline here. And again, a fig leaf waving in the wind, dude.
So is it possible, and you guys can, I know you're going to tell me no, but was this offense built on the preface that Christian McCaffrey is healthy and playing in it? Is that a fact?
Yes, but it also wasn't built. It was also built with the stupid idea that anybody would be good, even Christian McCaffrey, behind a bunch of bums on the offensive line.
Okay.
That's the thing, is that Christian McCaffrey would help, but it wouldn't be a solution. It would be a fix, not a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also a shame that so much of our offense is built around one player. I mean, literally, it's built around Christian McCaffrey.
That's irresponsible.
Yeah, and Cam Irving made the joke earlier this season when Christian went down the first time. He's like, yeah, we'll be all right. We're not the Carolina Christian McCaffreys. Well, could have fooled the shit out of me, dude, because it really seems like we are. And also, like, the amount of money that we're paying him, now the amount of games that he's missed. And then, to go back to what we were talking about with Matt Rule taking opportunities to throw these snide remarks and throw players under the bus, like veterans, like Cam Newton, it doesn't ingratiate you to your players as a leader.
Or the fans.
We've questioned his authenticity. We've questioned his character. All the things that we were actually sold as being Matt Rule's strengths have turned out to be failings at this point. And I don't want to be too hard, we make mistakes as humans, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're in the moment, you do this and that, but what he is not, there was no, like you said, the initial thing you said, Gene, is you don't say that.
No, that should be all be
you
in
don't say
house. That should
be
you
don't say that. Yeah, you don't say that. That you don't pick people that are to blame at that point. And he's picked favorites. He's picked Baylor players. He's picked Temple players. He's played favorites. He's played favorites all day. And it turns out this lifeboat is too full. He threw Joe Brady out. The whole boat's going down. He's tried to throw Cam out. Turns out Cam was too heavy for him to throw out. And now he's grabbing onto a Sam Darnold life vest, which is not rated for safety.
Yeah, it's full of bricks.
Yeah. All right. Guys, we have this is the C3 Beat Check, and we've had a good show. Cody, let's tease tomorrow's Debate My Take. We had a heated debate that we recorded right before this show. Tell them some of the topics that we argued over.
Oh, yeah. Listen, we're already talking about who our preference for head coach is in the event that Matt Rule is fired.
I won this one, bro.
No, you did not. I took the side of our next head coaches to be Eric Bieniemy. Tony Dunn wants to go backward and hire Greg Roman. Needless to say, I schooled him on that topic. Is Matt Rule lying about the decisions and, lying about covering up his own inadequacies on this football team? Who's the most disappointing Panther player in 2021? How will Brady Christensen fare against the Tampa Bay Bucks? And then here's the most fun one that we did. Pick any all-time Panther player to help you in a street fight.
Kevin Green.
And boy,
that was a notable mention. He didn't get it, but that's a good one. Gene could get up in this discussion.
Yeah, we did a fun show. It's going to be fun when that premieres. Check that out.
I like that.
We'll drop that tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Debate My Take. You can suggest our debate topics. I was a little disappointed we did not do Is Die Hard a Christmas movie, but everybody knows it is.
It is 100%.
Yeah, it meets all the criteria. All the criteria. Ho, ho, ho. You can hit us up on Twitter, hashtag C3 Debates and debate C3 Debate My Take, and suggest debate topics for next week's show. I want to thank Gene Thomas and wish you a Merry Christmas, man. Thanks for coming on the BeatCheck tonight. Tell them how they can find you on Twitter and on the interwebs with your podcast.
Oh yeah, you can go out to YouTube. You can find @Buck What You Heard. Give me a subscribe. I would appreciate it. You're always welcome in the chat. It doesn't matter what your team is. You're always welcome, and I'll make sure you don't ever get disrespected. That's what I like to do. I believe the NFL.
Say your thing. Follow me. You follow me. I follow you back.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and on Twitter, hit me up @Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I will follow you back.
I love that. It's a good line. It's just got good flow. My man, Gene, thanks so much for coming on the BeatCheck. Cody Lack, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter @CodyLack, CodyLac. All of my written content is at drafttech.com, where I'm the analyst for the Carolina Panthers, writing first and second round comments. And Gene, you're invited to this too, man. Every Friday at 7 p.m., we do a Friday free-for-all, where literally anyone and everyone can come on the show. I'll post the link to the StreamYard in the chat room, in the link to in the description box. That way anyone can come and talk football, talk about the Carolina Panthers, talk about the upcoming matchup. We have a fantastic time, a fantastic group of discussions. Come join the cult of free-for-all every Friday at 7 p.m., man. We're having a good time.
I will be there.
Nice.
Thank you, guys, man. The people in the chat got so many good suggestions. Make sure you get in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Smash the thumbs up button. It's free. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever your religious or non-religious flavor is. Just remember, the Saints fucking suck.
That's right.
All right, we out of here, folks. Keep pounding.